When I started to work more and more with gestures and with trying to give sounds to movements which do not make any sounds, I also realized that I probably needed something else to work with than just microphones and loudspeakers, so I also started to work with sensors. In the piece I'm going to show you now, I use sensors from the iPhones. You all know that when you turn a phone, the screen can turn with the phone. So you want to look at a picture, you turn the phone and the screen turns with it. And I think that's is very practical, because that means that there are sensors inside which I can use to tell me where my arms are. Are they like this or like this? Are they moving a lot or not? As soon as I attach an iPhone on the arm, it's gonna give me that information, and I can send it to the computer and use the iPhone as a sensor. I also work with different kinds of sensor systems which are more made for use with sounds or for use especially in installations. But the iPhone gives us many opportunities already, because it has already so many sensors. So the next piece works with 2 iPhones here. And I wanted to make a piece on cheering. It's called Cheering for Others Makes You a Leader. And it's about how all this cheering, all this liking, all this loving in society, perhaps also on social media platforms, etc., saying, yay, I like it. What that is about, what are we cheering for, in fact, and what are we still cheering for? And are we also, because giving likes and thumbs up and hearts, etc., that's one thing, but when are we really cheering loud and doing that and being a loud cheers? So I decided to work with 2 cheerleader pom-poms and to work with the gestures they make. But I'm not really a good cheerleader. I'm more a sad cheerleader. I'm more a cheerleader who tries to find different positions, and I can trigger some kind of sounds, but it's not really what you might expect of a cheerleader. And so that's what this piece is about, and it's a lot about, again, the gestures make all the sounds. So it's really a piece I can play. I can move like this, and then I hear different sounds. Especially in the beginning, you might see, like, every time I do like this, the hurrah sounds come. This is yippee. Here there are different yeehaw, yay, yoo-hoo sounds with the pom-poms, and I use these. And when I developed this piece, I also realized I need audience sounds in it as well. So there's applause in it, and I say thank you. And at the very end, I finally, as a cheerleader, I did my best, and I finally have a big audience which I can control. So there's a huge audience sound. Of course, that's a recording here again. We have a stadium crowd cheering. But of course, we are in a small concert hall. We are not there. I have, again, the loudspeaker, so to say, a big sound brought in a much smaller place. And every time I take my arms down, it gets soft. I scream, hurrah! And then they go up again, and we have the crowd sound. Of course, I couldn't end the piece like that, because there I'm so much in control. It shows a bit, I think, the dangerous part of cheering, of having an audience cheering for you that loud. And the moment I have my arms down again, then you just hear a very small applause, and it's clearly that, the fake. The applause, the big crowd was only fake, was only recording, and I'm playing with that in this performance. Hoera! Hoera! Yeehaw! Yeah! Yeehaw! Yeah! Hoera! Yoo-hey! Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hey! Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hey! Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hey! So I showed you different ways of how I amplify something and how I use recorded sounds and play them back in an environment which is not common for them. And I also showed you how I like to work with amplification, not of the real amplification of biting an apple, but also how I could kind of enlarge, increase these sounds in my mind and how that could sound. What can also happen with amplification is that you have too much amplification, and we call that feedback. You might notice from when you're listening to a speech and someone comes too close with a microphone to the loudspeaker, and then you hear feedback going on. And this is something I became interested in, and I decided to make a piece with that. When feedback happens, it changes according to how close the microphone is to the loudspeaker, because it's always feeding back its sound, and if it gets the sounds quicker, that changes from when it's far away. I'll quickly give you an example of this. So as you heard, it's really different on where the microphone and loudspeakers are, and it's also possible to reproduce the same sounds more or less when you have the same distance. I decided to make a piece with that where I use big panels, so I don't change the distance between the microphone and the loudspeaker, but I put panels in between them, and that these panels cause the sound waves to have to move around the panel instead of being directly there. And then I move these panels during the piece, and sometimes there is a direct connection, and that changes the distance between microphone and loudspeaker, so that's going to change the sound. You've seen now several ways I like to work with sound, how I like to work with amplification, amplifying things differently than they could be amplified just technically, and how I like to use amplification, which is too much, which is a mistake, so to say, to use feedback and compose with that. Many other artists have been doing this, and I have written a book on this, which is quite a book, I would say, for people who have been working probably already a bit with sound. But I also have a website with many examples of artists doing this, and I think on this website the material is much more accessible. So if you're interested in seeing what other artists have been doing with feedback, with amplification, with tactile transducers, with contact microphones, just go to this website and you will find many other examples. Thank you for listening.